Hello guys, welcome to United's Glory. Manchester United bottle their pursuit for the Champions League positions, dropping third place to fifth in the last minute of the match against Southampton, drawing 2-2, just when Manchester United had the chance to seize the moment and take control in the top four race. We put out a crepid display against Southampton. Not totally awful, but awful in quite a few parts of the game. First off, Southampton pressed us for the first 20 minutes and we struggled big time. Pogba was massively off the boil, costing us the first goal. We got back into it well, scoring two brilliantly executed goals. Anthony Martial, the focal point for both goals. But rather than kill the game off, we saw some negative tactics in the second half that ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, cost us the game. We still had chances and yes, we could have finished it off. But until you've got that 2-goal lead, until you've got that cushion, you don't start taking players off in this modern game. You cannot defend a 1-goal lead for 20 minutes in the modern game. One trickle of bad luck, a deflection, a bad tackle in the box, or one of your players going off injured without you having the chance to replace them as a substitute, you are up against it. And we only had Brandon Williams off the pitch for a few minutes before Southampton got the equaliser. Now, going into the second half, I was very positive. I thought we would get that third goal and put the game to bed. But we just didn't do it. It was poor. Rashford and Martial both should have scored, despite it being some great individual skill from both of them. But ultimately, you have got to put the game to bed. But just because you cannot put the game to bed, don't stop trying to put the game to bed. Don't rest on your laurels and try to defend a lead. Kill the game off. The best form of defence is attack. Every now and again, you will get caught out whilst attacking, but at least if you leave your better attacking players on the pitch, if the team does equalise against you, you still have those major players on the pitch to go out and make a difference and get that final goal. Sure, Southampton's goal came late, but we had at least 20, 25 minutes as the likes of Bruno, Pogba and Greenwood went off the pitch, and we brought on basically defensive-minded players. I don't even know what Daniel James is, to be brutally honest. He's neither good defensively or offensively. He is living on borrowed time. When the pressure was on, we bottled it. That is, quite frankly, what happened. Solskjaer bottled it with the negative tactics in the second half. Credit to some of the players on the pitch, so they did excellent jobs, but ultimately let down by some players you wouldn't expect them to be let down by. Anyway, let's get into the player ratings. David De Gea, no chance for either of the goals. Made some good stops. A very good save that I thought would be the match-winning save. Nothing to do with him today. 7 out of 10 for David De Gea. Wan-Bissaka, his worst game in the Manchester United shirt as far as I'm concerned. His tackling, which is usually incredibly good, struggled with Nathan Redmond. He couldn't really get a hold of Redmond. And when pressed, his passing was off-key as well. He weren't the only one that was off-key with passing. Even our better passers were off-key today. But this, like I said, was Bissaka's worst performance in a Manchester United shirt. And I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10, which doesn't sound that terrible, but that actually speaks to how good he's been this whole season. For me, the player of the year so far, but today wasn't good. Luke Shaw, one of his better games. He actually outperformed the other fullback, Bissaka, today. Sometimes a bit slow to close down, in my opinion, but he made some good overlapping runs, kept the ball well, always goes backwards, never takes chances, but Wan-Bissaka's bar is higher than Luke Shaw, so for Luke Shaw's bar, it's a 7 out of 10. And maybe being a bit generous there, but when he went off, we did seem to lose something. Harry Maguire, a bit clumsy in the first half, but ultimately did well on the ball against a very intense press from Southampton and kept the ball better than some of our midfielders, in fact. So I'm going to give Harry Maguire a 7. I think he's getting way more stick than he deserves. His price tag shouldn't determine what you rate him in the game. It's not his fault how much he cost. And as far as I'm concerned, he was okay today. Not special, but he was okay. On to Victor Lindelof, I thought, had a great game. Very solid, made some key interceptions. An 8 out of 10 for Victor Lindelof for me today. I thought he was very good. Maybe a bit generous considering we only managed to draw the game, but we literally did lose it in the last few minutes. And it was when we had 10 men on the pitch. And Southampton should have had 10 men on the pitch, in fact. Nemanja Matic, our best midfielder on the pitch today, breaking up a lot of Southampton's play, was probably our most composed midfielder on the ball, set the tempo more than, say, Pogba and Fernandes did, who both generally had poor games, in my opinion. But Nemanja Matic was steady. A 7 out of 10 for Nemanja Matic for me today. Paul Pogba Paul Pogba's bar is higher than everyone else because he is genuinely our only truly world-class player. Maybe some other players can get there, like Bruno, Rashford, Martial, and even Greenwood. But Pogba is certified world-class. But this was poor. When pressed, when he tried to take on players, he was dispossessed and cost us the first goal. And it wasn't the only time he was dispossessed either. He was dispossessed multiple times, gave the ball away multiple times. But despite having such a bad game, he contributed to both of our goals. He was there in the build-up play, and it's because he has that range of passing. Some of his passes are brilliant, but today his focus weren't there. And if that's against a top team that presses like Man City or Liverpool, Pogba's not going to get away with it. Pogba might be the most skilled midfielder in the world, but I don't agree with the contingent that say he's the best midfielder in the world right now, because until he can have consistency in all parts of his game for a whole season in the Premier League, then, he just isn't the best midfielder in the world, because that's what it takes. That's what Roy Keane had, Paul Scholes had, Patrick Vieira, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. I hate to mention them in a Manchester United video, but it was every week from those guys. Paul Pogba probably has a skill set that surpasses them, but he's got to be at the top of his game every week if he wants to be the best. And he can be, but it's a 5 out of 10 for Paul Pogba for me today. On to Bruno Fernandes. Since he's arrived, obviously, he's been the catalyst to our improved form. We are still unbeaten with Bruno Fernandes. He even got an assist, though it's a generous assist because ultimately Anthony Martial made that goal completely. It was individual brilliance from Martial. Bruno just happened to give him the pass, but still gets the assist on his record. His passing was poor. He gave the ball away, I swear, in double digits. Like I said, looking tired. And one thing I'm starting to get concerned about are his corners. His corners failed to beat the first man multiple times. And this isn't just today. I've noticed it in other games. He's got away with it in other games because he's been better in other games. His set-piece delivery from free kicks is generally quite good, but his corners leave a lot to be desired. It might be the Manchester United corner spots, but not good enough. But he got the assist, didn't do anything particularly wrong. Like I said, a bit wasteful with the ball. 6 out of 10 for Bruno Fernandes for me. Marcus Rashford, his best game since his return from injury. A good finish for the first goal. Unlucky, marginally offside for an offside goal, so he could have had 2. Should have scored, despite it coming from his initial individual brilliance and his link-up play with Anthony Martial. Should have got back on the score sheet again and finished the game off for us, and started to look tired in the later half of the game. But it was a good game from Marcus Rashford, his best game since returning. For me, it's an 8 out of 10 for Marcus Rashford today. Anthony Martial, man of the match for me, casually. 9 out of 10, would be 10 out of 10 if he'd have scored in the first half after capitalising on a mistake. It was a good save by the goalkeeper, but in those situations, you give the goalkeeper no chance. And then should have done better after his mazy run in the second half and finished the game off as well. Maybe he started to get a bit fatigued after the end of the run and his finishing went way off because he pretty much skied it. But you could say he could have had a hat-trick, and that would have been a 10 out of 10 performance for Anthony Martial. Brilliant work to set up the goal for Marcus Rashford for the first goal. And his off-the-ball play has been phenomenal in these last few matches. He's harrying down defenders and adding that extra dimension to his game that I've been talking about in some of my previous videos. Great performance by Anthony Martial. Didn't deserve to be on the losing side today. Mason Greenwood, quiet. The rage has been about Mason Greenwood in the last few weeks, but he was quiet today. Romeu should have been sent off for his tackle against Mason Greenwood. That was a red card. However, Southampton shut Mason Greenwood out of the game pretty well. Maybe he needs to get a bit closer to Anthony Martial when in the attacking third. And I feel he was let down a little bit by Wan-Bissaka today because Wan-Bissaka's passing was off. But ultimately, you expect this from an 18-year-old to have those quiet games because you know that when he does get a chance in front of goal, he will score 9 times out of 10. So a forgivable game from Mason Greenwood. Didn't do anything particularly wrong, just not the standard we've seen in a few recent games. Onto the substitutions. Fred came on, did okay, didn't do anything spectacular, 6 out of 10. Brandon Williams came on, looked tenacious, was aggressive in the tackle, but ultimately that got him injured. Obviously, he had to go off, and you could say was a direct reason for us ending up conceding because we had to play with 10 men for the last few minutes. But 6 out of 10 for Williams. McTominay, didn't really hear him. Didn't really contribute much, just a regular 5 out of 10. James, like I said, he's living on borrowed time. Apart from the few bits he did at the start of the season, he has done nothing since, and he offers nothing. He looks so ordinary compared to the rest of our attacking players on the pitch. It may seem harsh because he was only on the pitch for 10, 15 minutes, but he did nothing, literally nothing on the pitch. Even when he got the ball, it just felt like attacks were breaking down with him. His defensive work weren't particularly great. He's young and he did do bits at the start of the season, so that may buy him a second season. And I can empathise with him getting that chance. And I do want him to turn it around. I do want him to show me something and prove me wrong. But I'm struggling to see it. I'm not seeing that magic you see from the likes of Rashford, Greenwood or Anthony Martial. And if we get Jadon Sancho in as well, there's his chances even more limited. I may be being harsh on Daniel James, but when he came on, our attacking threat down that right side just vanished. 5 out of 10 for Daniel James. Anyway, a point. We are only a point behind Chelsea, and we're only behind in 5th on goal difference to Leicester. 3 goals. Given how much we've been scoring lately, we can turn that around in the next 3 games. Of course, we have Leicester themselves, so it's still in our hands. We can still get Champions League. The fact that Manchester City's ban hasn't been overturned is a joke, but we had to kind of expect that. We all knew that was going to happen. We've got Crystal Palace next. They will be tough. They will want to give us a hard game. The thing is, we may be playing teams in the bottom half of the table now, but these are teams with no pressure on them. They aren't going to get relegated, so the pressure's off. They can just play their game, whereas the pressure is on us now. And as we've seen in the past, we are a team who bottles it under pressure. Today, we bottled it. Solskjaer bottled it. Go for the game, be ruthless, kill the game off. Of course, top 4 isn't our only chance at Champions League. We have the UEFA Cup as well. Europa League. And I want us to get there before we even get to the Europa League, because there's some good teams left in the Europa League. We need to win our next 3 games, and we can do that. I think we can beat Leicester, even if we aren't on form. The only trouble is I fear Southampton may have shown a blueprint for how to give us trouble, but hopefully we can take that game today and think, look, this can cause us problems and figure a way around it and improve in the future. So when we do come up against teams like Manchester City and Liverpool who press in a similar manner to Southampton, then we won't make the same mistakes we did today, because both the goals we conceded today were of our own making. But what this game also told me is we have no strength in depth. When our substitutes come on, they're just not at the same level as the players that are going off the pitch. So when I'm hearing people saying that we don't need Jadon Sancho because we've got Greenwood, or we don't need Jack Grealish, guys, if you think we don't need those players and you have not been watching top tier football for the last 25 years, because it's a squad game and we need players who can make a difference coming off the bench. We need to be able to rest players that are playing too much like they have been. And the tiredness did start to set in at the end of that game. And if we were able to rotate and bring in at least good quality, then we may have won to get today's game comfortably. Anyway, that's all for today. Speak to you soon.